So the 2025 CLOL season is just around the corner. The first round of games are set to begin in just 2.5 weeks on January 25th, 2025. I'm super excited about another year of Collegiate League of Legends to begin. There's a ton of new format changes that are going to be very, very fun to watch. Swiss during the regular season to allow for more competitive matchups earlier on in the year, as well as double elimination, a modified double elim bracket for both the regional finals and the championship bracket later in the year to wrap things up. So lots to look forward to this season. We're going to be covering a lot of it both here on this Twitter account as well as, of course, on Salty Runback. We got some announcements that we're going to be making in the next couple of weeks. But for now, we're making this video for a bit of a different reason, and that is because some news came out around the CLOL space that was not necessarily publicized on this platform specifically. This was posted to the CLOL Discord yesterday by our good friend Dekar, or Tim, who announced that the seeding has been released to the public for the upcoming CLOL season. Now, not only does this get us a chance to look at, how high different teams are seeded going into this season, but also gets us a look at the rosters that different teams are going to be running, as well as, of course, where they're going to be playing. Which conference are some of these schools going to be playing in? And there was a little bit of swapping around that was not necessarily publicized too much, and I want to bring some of those announcements or some of those changes to light here. So here are the 5 biggest things. We're going to go through each of the conferences and then a look at the partner conferences that I want you guys to be able to take away going into the year. We're going to start here in the Northern Conference. So as you can see here, the green teams are going to be playing in the championship bracket. That's the bracket that most of us care about. And then the yellow and the red brackets will be playing in the open division throughout the season as well. But here we go. North Conference, your takeaway here is that the champs are back. There was a lot of talk, of course, about St. Louis University defunding their program after winning the national championship. But you see here, seeded 9th, it looks like they're going to be running a club team here for the 2025 season. So, of course, not the varsity program. That's obviously a shame. I believe that a lot of those scholarships that these players are on were going to continue to the end of the season, to the end of, whatever their tenures at SLU end up being. So I'm very happy about that. But it looks like some of these players are going to be sticking around and playing some League of Legends together, which I'm super excited about. Always love watching this core play. You can take a look at the roster here. Darkwings, Winnie, and Aaron all returning. You see Deos, I believe he's going to be just playing at this point because they're kind of throwing a lot of stuff together. Surdy, obviously, to the LTA and everything like that. But excited to see them here in this conference as, still a lot of really strong names here. The Northern Conference, historically, one of the powerhouses. You got Maryville, ISU, who has had a great fall semester, and then other teams like Bethany, Minnesota, even Mizzou, Michigan State. Looks like they put together a pretty good team as well. So the North Conference still looking pretty strong. But the big thing I want you to take away here is that SLU are back and they are going to be playing for a chance to redeem themselves and repeat as CLOL champions. Let's move on to the East Conference now. And the biggest takeaway here is that it's still an absolute fucking mess. I mean, no offense to the East Conference. It is always one of the most fun regional playoffs to watch because there's a lot of good teams. There aren't really any necessarily great teams, I guess you could say. The closest that we got last year was with St. Clair. They have Flocon coming in this season. They made a pretty good run to the top 8. But they're going to have some good competition, as they always do, going into this CLOL season. You have Toronto here running back some of their players with a full GM Plus roster. Blue 612 and Little Frosty are immediately 2 names that I recognize here. Western seems to be running a lot of their players back. You see Dr. Calculus and Krakadon, who both had pretty breakout years in 2024, joining alongside Loyal and Lynx as per usual. McMaster going to be running another roster here. That's Hoarder, of course. They didn't actually make it to the top 32 last season, but Hoarder alongside Lunar? I don't know if that's actually Lunar. Let me know if that is or not. I know that he's in Canada somewhere. I don't know if he's actually at McMaster. But you also have BU with Samakin, with some new players coming around, and I believe actually a stronger roster altogether for Samakin's second year at Boston University. And you also have teams like Waterloo with Onat and Inexhaustive playing. UTM is another team in the Eastern Conference that I'm excited to look at. They have AB as well as Munchie, and Sora, I believe, has also been a part of some OQs in the past. So altogether, East Conference, a ton of very solid teams, and it's going to become a very difficult question for the committee after the regional playoffs conclude of which of these teams we'll be seeing in the top 32 bracket. Let's move on to the South now, and I think the South Conference last year actually kind of didn't have the best rap. They only got, I think, 4 bids into the bracket. But this year, I think my biggest takeaway here is that the South Conference has gotten a ton stronger, notably with the addition of SCAD. Now, you might have seen the SCAD roster announcement earlier in the semester, as I believe they played in some of these off-season fall tournaments with players like Izo and Wartrim and Avril joining the squad. But they made even a bigger splash here going into the season. Yes, that is right. That is Mixture. Mixture from Lotus Esports. Mixture, who has never played on a CLOL team before. He's now joining SCAD. I believe that's going to allow Avril to move back up to 80 carry. That'll allow for just another high-level player to join this roster. And this is going to make this South Conference even stronger than it was before. Another team that made some big upgrades, Georgia State University. They were, I believe, in the top 12 of their regional playoffs last season, but joining their team is Doubtful, who was part of Purdue Northwest last year, and Playmaker, who was on a couple of those abandoned kitten rosters in the OQs last season. They're going to be joining Hyperton, who's been a staple of this organization for the past couple of years. Georgia State, another team to look out for. And of course, the Kings of this South Conference, I expect them to continue to their reign, is UST. They've brought in Bradley to join the rest of their team. So they will absolutely still be the favorites here, but alongside SCAD, Georgia State, and also, schools like UT Dallas and Oklahoma Christian, who also made it into the bracket last season, I really think South Conference is going to be strong once again. The West Conference, on the other hand, for our next takeaway, they got a lot weaker, unfortunately, and we already knew that the West was not necessarily the strongest conference historically ever since, UCI won that national championship about 6 years ago at this point. They're still going to be leading the pack here, UCI. They had a lot of different roster additions, players like Strompist joining the team. But the biggest changes here, a lot of the UCSD core that has been a critical part of this Western Conference. I believe a lot of them graduated. Players like Protos and Jezamancy and those guys. It looks like they're not going to be on this team moving forward. USC has moved all the way down here to pretty low here in the bracket. I believe Southern California, if I can find them correctly, down to 15th. And Levitate, not on the roster here. I'm not 100% sure if that means he's not going to be playing or not. These are pretty, unofficial. These are not necessarily the official rosters, but if Levitate's not playing, that would definitely be a big loss to the Southern Conference. And also, Colorado Boulder, who was the big surprise team that went in and made it all the way to the round of 16 with Saligo. They actually failed to qualify for the top 32 based off of ELO. I believe Saligo not playing with this team this time around, so they're all the way down here in the open bracket. So no CU Boulder, USC and UCSD both hit significantly. This is going to be a much weaker Western Conference going into the 2025 season. Expect UCI and Weber State to lead the pack, but after that, it's going to be really a big coin flip and maybe not a ton of auto bids after that. But here's the biggest thing that I want to talk about here. The last most important point as we head into the partner conferences, the NECC has become the premier conference of CLOL, with Northwood University joining their ranks. Now, Northwood historically has been a part of the Northern Conference. They finished top 3 the last 2 seasons, but they have made the swap over to NECC. They have made some roster changes with Cozy and Will joining their roster alongside Reppy, Enthralled, and Clyde, I believe, still on that team. But this is a huge move for NECC League of Legends. Northwood will now be joining Ole Miss, Winthrop, and Fisher College, 4 teams that were in the top 8 of CLOL last year, all in the exact same conference. And not only that, there are also schools like UIUC, Maryland, and Michigan that are also going to continue to be big threats, and if they have good years, could potentially sneak into that top 32 bracket as well. So, I mean, what an awesome conference this is, NECC. I know that they do a lot of streams. Looking forward to watching a ton of this region play. The other big stuff here is that MEC made a couple of big changes as well. Columbia College and Ohio State both joining the Midwest Esports Conference. Always a fan favorite here. And OSU, they still got Cyborg, they still got Five Fire, and a lot of their core that just barely missed out in the Northern Conference. I think being in the MEC this time around is actually going to significantly help their case. Of course, they're going to have to compete against schools like Purdue Northwest, who made a couple of roster changes as well. Hey, let's Aljun here on this team, as well as Grandview University here, who's always a threat in the MEC. The rest of the partner conferences don't look anything too different or too crazy. Excited to watch this battle between Northeastern and and Ball State, as they always seem to be duking it out. Interesting to see Hiccup as a part of this team. I didn't know that she was a part of Northeastern, but that should be a really fun thing to watch as well. So that is my overall thoughts. Again, more CLOL content coming in the very near future here on this channel at Speedy Grapes as well as on Salty Rumback. But those are some big takeaways. You can take a look. I'll link the spreadsheet down below if you want to take a little bit of a closer look. You can also see all the rosters on the University Esports NA page. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time